struggling with food and exercise her entire life to finally finding and achieving real lasting results. Today's episode features one of our incredible clients who's transformed her body and mindset in just 5 months. Tune in as we reveal the strategies and breakthroughs that made this transformation possible for her. Enjoy. I would love to start with you maybe just telling me a little bit about yourself, if you're comfortable, how
Yeah,
old you are, kids,
sure. You
life, all
got
that
it.
kind of stuff.
I'm Sari. I am 44. I'm going to be 45 in March. I have two young kids. My son JJ is 10 and my daughter Cole is 7.
In your 20s and early 30s, what was your idea around fitness and wellness? Let's go through that a little bit.
Sure. I mean, to be totally frank and honest, I've spent 4 decades of my life dealing with body image issues. I've been everything from anorexic and bulimic and, a heavy kid. I've been everything from like a size 14 to a size 0. So my whole life has been a roller coaster ride of figuring out how to appreciate and love my body. I have a lot of like
Mhm.
trauma
Yeah.
around everything to do with my self-image and weight that started really, really young. So probably in my 20s, that was me coming out of being very sick and anorexic and being like suddenly like, well, now I have to eat, and then going the whole other way and then just starting a whole roller coaster
Mhm.
of that. I think for that, it was just starting to understand like breaking up with diet culture and whether I did that healthy or not. Like, I think I've definitely gone through these moments of time of like thinking that what I'm doing is healthy when it's really not. And then, completely breaking up with diet culture and eating whatever I wanted and having empowerment to just be like, hey, this is me. I'm going to do what I want. I'm not going to have these like strict regiments around it. And so there's always been these like blips, but really working on the mindset was always like the most important thing. And I think I did a lot of work probably on my own. I probably should have done it with some more professionals. But I think just like reframing how I approach life, that like I'm more than what a number on a scale is, than what I look like, and needing to just like really work through that. And
Mhm.
I had kids late. I had JJ when I
Yeah.
was 34. I had Cole when I was 37. So I think sort of coming into your 40s, I think a lot of people talk about how like you just sort of you don't give a fuck anymore about what people think about
Exactly.
you, and you really just have to like own, this is me. I'm not going to change. I'm never, for me to be 115 pounds or 120 pounds, I had to starve myself for 2 years.
Right.
Like, that is not
Right.
where my body is supposed to be. So at some point, you have to kind of just like draw a line and accept what is
Mm.
good for you. So that was a big part of that like mental
Yeah. I
journey for
love
me.
that. I love that. And so now what got you interested in the program?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously I had seen you guys a few times when I reached out to you guys. I think it was in July. Like, and Chris can attest this. I like bawled. I was literally bawling on my first call with him. Mentally, physically, I wasn't taking care of myself. Like I literally was in a constant fight or flight mode. Like, just I was letting work really impact my life. And it was at a point where like I had fixed that before and I went right back into that same pattern. And it was just, I would look in the mirror, I didn't recognize my body, I wasn't taking care of myself, I wasn't working out, I wasn't eating well, I wasn't sleeping, and I literally lived in like a panic mode where I'd come out of meetings and like my stomach would be distended, and I was like, it was just such a low that I was like,
Mm.
things have to change. I was like, I need a whole rehaul of my life.
Mm.
And I think sometimes when you just like reach that moment of feeling so low, that's when you know you're ready shit.
Yeah, because I vividly remember our first conversation
I think I cried with you
because
too.
I did relate a lot to, and I always relate a lot to what our clients go through because as women, I think there's just so much pressure on us to make sure every aspect in our life is run properly. We
Yeah.
wanna always show up and be the best for our kids, for our, partner, for our, people that we work with. So there's this obscene amount of pressure constantly.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to you, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, why are you doing it? And what I really appreciated about your journey and the way you started is you had all these things around you that set you up to it was almost like you were set up to fail, but you
Yep.
had this desire to wanna just, like, push past everything. I could tell. You
Yeah.
were just like, "I'm in it. I'm getting it done. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get to the finish line." And
Yeah.
so there was so many obstacles in your way, and you really like, that's what's so impressive to Chris and I, what you've done, not just from, like, what your body looks like, it's just from a mental space and how you've
Oh,
carried.
it's so much more than, like, the
Yeah.
physical change.
There's a lot of women out there, often hear, I can't do this." There's always that limiting mindset. So what was it? What did you have to tap into to allow you to keep us focused?
Yeah, because I am that woman. I've made every excuse. But even when I did this, and I remember like Elon said to me, he was like, "You're not gonna wake up at 5:30 in the morning to work out." Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Just watch me. I work out at night, like that's my thing. I even said it to Chris, and he was like, "You need to fix it. You can't read until 2 o'clock in the morning. You need to go to sleep. You need to be in bed at 10 o'clock." And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna stop saying that I can't. And that was just the first thing is that it's like what we say to our kids when like, oh, I can't do this. It's like, no, you can't do it yet. Right. So I
Yeah,
was like, I have to practice what I preach. I'm committed to doing this. Things need to change. And the only way to do that is to do it. And I think I shared with you before, like, I'm not a goal setter. I'm not even in my career. Like, I'm a type B personality. I'm organized chaos. When someone's like, oh, what's your 5-year plan? I've never had that. And the minute that I try to like make these very concrete goals, I will self sabotage.
yeah,
Like, I just know myself. And so, as much as I was like, yeah, like I would love to come into this and lose X amount of weight or do this or do that, I was like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, no, I'm just going to start. And I think
right.
that's the thing is just do it. And the
I love
first 2 or 3 days that I woke up, I was like, "This is so brutal." And by the second week, I was like, "Oh, I'm, like, waking
that.
up, like, I'm going to sleep earlier and I'm waking up, and now I start to crave it." I think it's just deciding to do something and doing it instead of asking, "How am I gonna do it?" I just was like, "Okay, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try and do how I'm supposed to eat," and then just each day it gets better because I'm a classic example of, like, I don't know how to do it, like, I was commuting to a job in Vaughan, and I have 2 young kids, and my daughter's in competitive dance, and, like, I have to pick everybody up, and I have to do these things, and then I'm tired. It's like everyone has an excuse, and I think you just have to be like, "Just get up and try," and then
Right,
just start from there,
right.
and that's, I think, what led me to be able to just change because
I
I
love
just
that.
didn't think too much about it.
I love it. What is one piece of advice you would give someone that's kind of like, go back to yourself 8 months ago,
Yeah,
that's in not the greatest place and wants to change but doesn't know what to do,
I would just say, just do something.
right?
'Kay, right? Because we talk and we talk, and we're like, "We're gonna do these things, we're gonna plan, I'm gonna eat this way differently tomorrow, I'm gonna in the next 6 months, I'm gonna lose this." Like, just do tomorrow, worry about tomorrow, get through tomorrow, and then the next day, worry about the next day. Because the more
Right.
time you spend creating a plan or thinking about where you need to be in 4 months, like, that's when you sort of stall yourself, and don't just do it to, like if your only goal is to lose weight, like, I just don't think it's the right way to approach it. I think you have to just look
100%.
at, like, why are you doing this? And, like, keep that why, and treat it that way because otherwise, I think you're just gonna set yourself up for failure.
I love that. And then tell me a little bit about the person that you are today. Like, you've been training with us how long now?
Tomorrow will be the last day of the 5th month.
5th month?
Yeah,
Okay, so it's been 5 months. So now tell me the person that you are 5 months after,
yeah,
really prioritizing yourself. What
for
happened
sure.
in your life? What's going on?
So, I think one thing that was and I think I shared this with you, and I had a big cry that day, was the last day of that first 2-month reset
Program. Yep.
was the last day
More
of my the
drama.
job that was not working for me, and there was this really serendipitous moment of I made some, decisions for myself to start fixing myself, and everything else sort of fell in line. And I hold that with me really strongly that I was like, okay, that was part of like making decisions to do the right things for me. And now I know I think for me just now I'm just really proud of myself. I'm doing things that always said I would never do. And I wake up and I'm excited to work out. And the days that I like sleep in past like 6, I'm like groggy because I slept in longer. So I'm just really proud of myself for changing so many aspects of my life that I said I would never do. And I'm just really freaking strong. And I love that. Like, that's all that I care about is feeling really strong and knowing that that's what's going to like, sort of like take me forward. Cause that's a big part of my why is like, I don't
Mm,
want to be 60 and like not be able to get off the couch. I had kids later. My kids are going to have kids later and I'm going to be older. And I don't want to be that person later in life. And so I need to fix that now.
you wanna be the cool grandma at the playground running around with
Yeah,
the
still doing
babies.
hip hop. Like, that's gonna be me.
That's what literally everyone's like, "What's your why?" I'm like, "I wanna be that old grandma that's like
Yeah.
doing the monkey bars at the park with my
For sure.
grandkids,
Yeah.
not debilitated on a chair popping pills, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome, that's awesome. And what do the kids think of your this whole transformation that you've had or watching mom train?
I think
Anything cute?
I mean, they've been super supportive. It's interesting because those first few weeks, I hadn't really set up my, like, basement sort
Yeah,
of setup. So I was working out on the main floor also because our basement is, like, really low, as you
yeah.
can see. And so my son just, like, has an internal like, his internal alarm clock is 5:45. Like, he's
Yeah,
just no matter what time he goes to bed, so he'd be, like, up and watching TV and, like, watch me work out every day. So I think he just, like I hope that he saw some sort of dedication, and, like, even last night, he's like, "Why do you work out if it's so painful?" I'm like, "'Cause it makes me feel really good." Whereas my daughter is, like, in competitive dance, she's, like, super they do all this conditioning and stuff, so, like, she comes downstairs and she does that stuff with me, and when we talk
yeah,
about it, it's talking about being strong and having muscle to be able to, like, hold things and carry things, and I just want her to have that mindset of, like, why the working out isn't for to look a certain way, it's to
good.
feel strong and be empowered and that kind of stuff, and she already feels that way, so that's really important.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
so important. I think, I struggle a lot with the scale and trying to get clients to stay away from it
I have
because
not stepped on the scale in 2.5 months. I
oh, girl, you
refuse.
don't need to.
I
Did the
refuse.
pictures
There's
say it
not where
all?
I did it. Even in
Yeah,
those I think I told you even those first 2 months, I only went on the scale 3 times,
yeah,
because I was like, "This isn't what it's about for me."
right.
And knowing you like you said, like, you could be so much smaller than you were before and be the same weight, if not more, depending on how much, like, muscle you've
Yeah,
gained, so the scale
yeah.
is very triggering.
It's
Um
triggering for everybody. It's honestly like even me, I know better, right? Sometimes, very rarely will I go stand on the scale. And I have to remind myself, right, of certain
Yep,
things. Oh, I'm getting my period. So yeah, I might be 3 pounds heavier. Or, oh, I went out last night for dinner. Like there's all these things that are,
yep,
that's why I always say just put the scale away. The best thing to do once a year is to get a DEXA scan so you can see where your muscles at, where you are at fat and full body mass. So but yeah, that scale, it's like some people are so they hold on to it for dear life.
it's hard not to. Listen, it's so easy to fall back and, someone I forget who it was, someone from the program messaged me the other day saying I was, like, having such a bad week last week. I was like, "Listen, I felt like ass last week," and I convinced myself, I was like, "Oh my god, I've gained all this weight in a week, and I should get on the scale to validate it," and I went on this whole sort
Yeah,
of spiral, and then I was like, "No, shut up. Shut up.
good.
It's just a week, like, you're having a bad week. You were sick, you were this, you were that, like, don't go there." But it's so easy. It's
Right.
really
Well, you
so,
brought up something
so
really
easy.
important. It's that I call it the monkey voice,
Yep,
right? It's that little voice inside your head that is constantly trying to bring you down. So
yep,
you do have to recognize it and you have to tell it to exactly that. I would say,
yep.
shut the fuck up.
Listen,
Like,
I've had that voice in my head for, like, over 40 years, and
oh yeah, it'll
it's
probably
never
never
gonna
go
go away.
away.
It's never gonna go away, and it's knowing better, right? It's
Yeah.
knowing to just tell it to shut up.
How do you think, now that you're training all the time and it's like a
Yeah,
part of your lifestyle, do you feel that you're showing up better in other aspects of your life?
100%, 100%. So like I said, like, I've moved over, in my role, I think anywhere, like in my what I do for a living, there's always chaos, right? Like there's
Mhm.
no such thing as like a quiet moment. And it's always been really, really easy for me to get caught up in the chaos, in the negativity spiral. Like it's been really easy.
Mhm.
Um, because again, it's like negativity breeds on negativity, right? So it's like
Right,
really, really easy to go there. And I think just coming out of the last few months and being like, hey, I'm doing all these things for me was also about like setting back like you said, it wasn't just about working out and my weight and what I was eating. It was about like setting new boundaries for myself, like creating a program, doing all these things. And when you feel empowered to do those things, it empowers you to like make sure that like you're maintaining those boundaries and doing the right things for your mental health, and like work life balance and all that kind of stuff. So even like coming into this new role, like I've come in being like, no, we're setting our boundaries. This is what we're doing. I do this at this time. I turn off at this time. This chaos is happening. Great. It's not going to control my life. I can't control it. It's is what it is,
good.
and sort of like moving forward. So I think it's just allowed me to like remind myself of like the things that we have to do for ourselves to be our best selves.
Right.
Do I still like deal with, overstimulated mom and not always proud of my behavior sometimes, 100%. But I think it's just this program has changed so much of my mentality about a lot of things that it allows it to permeate into the
Mm.
other places. Cause like when you're in a really bad place, it just seeps into everything in your life, right?
I think it's really important. What I always try to practice with clients is like, let's work on prioritizing you because if you are healthy, if you are happy, if you are strong, what
Yep.
happens around you? It's like you exude that and that's exactly what you get back. That's why I'm a big believer that it's not just about exercise and it's not just about eating well. It's like a combination of all of it.
Right, and even the sleeping was so that was, like, the first thing Chris said to me. He's "Before you even start, like, working out," he's like, I just need to fix your sleeping, like,
Yeah.
you need to sleep."
Yeah.
Because it was, I was in such a bad place where I was like reading until God knows when because it was like my only time where I felt like it was for me. And then I was having like work nightmares and like anxious thoughts and like couldn't sleep. And he was like, "You're gonna not gonna be able, none of these things are gonna matter if you're getting like 2 hours of sleep a night." So that's also that piece of like, I don't think I ever realized like how important
Oh,
sleep
it's
is.
sleep is everything. It's like the secret to longevity, staying youthful, recovery, like it's everything. It's so
Yeah.
funny 'cause in your 20s, it doesn't matter. You have so many great hormones inside you.
Oh my god,
Everything's
you would,
like
like, go out, you'd party till 3 o'clock in the morning, you wake up at, like, 6, go to work, do it all over
you're like,
again, and
"I'm
it
fine. I
doesn't
got this."
matter.
Yeah, but you could get away with it when you're in your 20s, right? When you're in your 40s, you really have to focus on longevity and internal wellness, I would say. If someone was sitting on the fence to take this program, what piece of advice would you give them?
I think I would tell them to think about why you need to do it, like, what is it that you're trying to achieve first to, like, again, figure out, like, the why,
Yep,
and then I would tell them it's the best investment they could ever do for themselves.
that's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for taking
Thank
the
you.
time to speak to me. That was
My
really nice.
pleasure.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button for more inspiring stories like Sari's. And if you want to learn more about the 40 Forward program, you can hit the link in our bio.